broker, author, and speaker. He has a podcast that is being downloaded for people in 20 countries. So he may have something to say, very important, I guess, to download in 20 countries. Please welcome Scott Friedman, broker, author, and speaker. He has a
We good?
yeah, you can go, I guess.
Just everybody mute yourselves, please.
Hello, everyone. When I was in high school, I had something I kept trying to do. I kept trying to make sense out of the world as a high school student. You know, good luck, right? And I tried this perspective and that perspective because I wanted to understand the world and how it worked to just give me some sense of some control on things. Welcome, fellow Toastmasters. It's good to be with you. And it's exciting to speak to people from all over the world. This is great. This is great. So in the perspective that I was looking for, and was for probably 50 years before I figured it out, I wanted it to incorporate all the things that I thought were true, things like that we're all one, that spiritual growth is an important part of life, and that acceptance is healing. And I just kept trying to come up with something that would make sense out of all the different perspectives and all the different things that I was engaged in. And I finally, it only took me 50 years. Okay, so, you know, I may not be a quick study, but I'm persistent. I get there. All right. And it's a challenge for me to talk to you about this because one of my great fears in life is that I'll be ostracized because people will think that I'm too weird and who I am is not something they want to associate with. So it's always a challenge for me to give these kinds of speeches because I'm always afraid of how they'll be received and judged and all that stuff, which is intellectually crazy because I know we're all one and I know if I don't reject myself, nobody can really reject me and it's all okay. But never mind, common sense doesn't seem to have a lot of traction in areas of insanity. And we see that a lot in our world today, right? Eventually, I came to understand for me, and this works for me, and I get it, you know, if it's not something that's not your cup of tea, that's fine, okay? But for me, I feel like that being one has to include being one with God. And for me, the way I understand it is that as part of God, I decided that I wanted to create my mind and that I was going to charge my mind with creating a world that I could respond to in order to experience who I was. So for example, I created a marriage so that I could experience the love that I am as I express it towards my wife. I created clients so I could experience the care that I have while I serve my clients. And it's completely changed my life because now I look at everything in terms of I created this experience, I created this circumstance in my life, and I created it so that I could bring and experience and accept more of who I am. So whether that's patience, whether that's creativity, whether that's the power of light to create alignment when I'm dealing with an uncooperative underwriter, instead of getting frustrated, to just try to relax and to say what's true as calmly as possible and to watch to see if they come around. I mean, one of the great things that I've found to do, and in terms of making all this stuff practical, right, is when I have an underwriter that is taking an insane perspective, it works so well. I say to them, I say, can you help me understand? I'm not understanding what you're doing. I don't know, maybe I just am dense or something, but can you please explain it to me? And by the time they're finished trying to explain it to me, they've agreed with me because there's no foundation or basis for what they're saying in the first place. And to me now, I understand that is understanding the power of light to resonate the light that's in other people to a more sane and honest behavior. And it's very, very exciting as I'm learning and practicing doing this all the time. So I tend to be a pretty impatient guy in general. And so now, instead of being like really impatient, I say, okay, I created this situation in my life. What part of who I am do I need to bring to bear so I can experience that part? And a lot of times it's compassion, because not everybody has the same abilities as everybody else. And we need to kind of have compassion. And so it's a lot different looking at those situations where I have to be patient. There's a huge difference between being frustrated and impatient and saying to myself, I created this in my world so that I could experience more of the compassion that I am. So it's a very different approach to things. And it's very exciting to me because more and more areas where I used to be very frustrated about, I'm able to look differently. So I've been really busy in the mortgage business lately, right, with the low interest rates and so on. And I used to look at being really busy in the mortgage industry as like, this really sucks. I don't really want to be doing this. I have to earn a living to pay the bills. But what I really want to do is focus on my spiritual growth. And I'd get resentful of having to put so much time into the mortgage business. Now I say, I created this. And what talents do I have as part of God that I can bring to bear here and accept? And I said, well, I have focus. I have the ability to prioritize. And doing these loans is actually an act of caring for my clients. And when I look at it that way, I don't get resentful of having to work hours, because anytime I work more than 20 hours a week, it's like, oh my God, what is this? I don't want to work this much. Okay. I'm lazy. I know, it's okay. So I don't want it to interfere with my tennis time, my meditation time, my time with my wife, and my afternoon naps. Please don't interfere with my afternoon naps. I don't want that. But my point is that looking at things this way, it does a couple things for me. One, it makes me feel more empowered, because looking at it this way, I create everything in my life. So nobody can really do anything to me, because it's all about what I've created in my life. And nothing really exists other than what I've created with my mind, because my mind is that powerful. And I have seen some amazing things in terms of listening to other people's view of the world and what their mind has created, as opposed to what my mind has created. And I'm telling you, each of us creates a completely different world based on our mind. But taking this point of view helps me understand people and have more compassion for people. It helps me feel that I'm not a victim, right? Because if I'm thinking that, the goal is to get this loan funded and I have to get the underwriter to cooperate, then the power is outside of me. If I'm thinking about that, I created this situation so that I can bring the light I have to bear and see how it resonates light in the world and other people. Much different perspective, much more within my power. So that's one of the big benefits of believing that my entire world is created by my mind, is that I'm empowered to do something about it, which is really, really wonderful. The areas that this can expand into are limitless. And one of the things going forward that I'm really interested in is learning more and more and more of the specifics of how I create my mind, how I create my world with my mind. I have sort of like some broad outlines, and then I have some real kind of like real specifics, like I created this situation where I'm, frustrated and I need to like change how I view it. But the in-between having created my view of the world with my mind, which is sort of high level stuff, and taking a different view of being frustrated with people, there's this whole huge area in between that sort of needs filling in. And I'm very excited to have this perspective, to be able to start to fill in more and more and more of those pieces. So my challenge to you is to at least consider, if you want to, if you think I'm crazy, okay. And one note about that, actually, that in thinking about how concerned I am about what other people think, I keep getting reminded over and over in my meditation that if I accept myself enough, other people will accept me as I am. They may think that I'm crazy, but they'll just accept that I'm crazy. They won't be like judging me for being crazy, right? And so one of the reasons to do these speeches and the podcast and stuff is to have greater acceptance of myself. And it enables me to be safer and being more open with people because it makes me less vulnerable to being hurt by other people's opinions. But nevertheless, if you want to encourage you all to experiment with the idea that we create our entire world with our mind, and that we've created that entire world with our mind to give ourselves opportunity to express the part of us that is God in a loving and constructive, fun and humorous and uplifting way. And I think that, well, let's put it this way. I hope that you'll get as much out of it as I do in terms of feeling control over your life, feeling happy, feeling less inhibited to let the joy flow out of you, and all those other good things. And I leave you with that. Turn conduct back to the Toastmaster.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you. Please take a minute, make a comment. Kevin, give me 1 minute, please. Very quiet. Amen. Okay, I think it's enough time to write a good note to Scott. Our third speaker is the educational part. Wendy Smith is going to give us a tip from the last speech, the workshop on parliamentary procedure to complete her ACG. Tonight, she will give us a tip from the workshop on what she's considered one of the most important procedures that is not usually done correctly. Please welcome Wendy Smith. Wendy.
Thank you. When I decided to do a workshop on parliamentary procedure, it's because somebody offered to help me lend me his office do the PR because I thought it sounded boring. However, what I learned in my research was without parliamentary procedure, our meetings, not so much a Toastmaster meeting like this, but